Okay, you're listening to the ebook revolution. Welcome once again. This is episode 14, and the ebook revolution is all about entrepreneuring and authorpreneuring and writing books and publishing platforms. And I'm very happy to have on the show today somebody that combines all those attributes in one. He's Ravi Jayagopal, and he really is the coolest geek on the planet. Now, don't believe me? If you're sitting near a computer, just go and search Coolest Geek on the Planet, and Ravi will pop up at the top. It's quite an accomplishment. He's an entrepreneur and a writer from San Diego. His first book was published back in 2007 and was called No Business Like E-Business, and it was a category bestseller. Ravi's also the host of the sensationally successful podcast Subscribe Me, but we're here today to talk about his new book, now available on Amazon, and it's also called Subscribe Me. And I've got him on the line now. Welcome, Ravi.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me on your show.
No problem at all. You really are the coolest geek on the planet. Tell me the story behind that.
So many years ago, when SEO was all the rage, right? Everybody's trying to game Google and try to build incoming links to certain sites. There was this contest among a few marketers, and they were going after a different set of keywords, I believe, at the time. I don't remember exactly. It was something like smartest guy or, handsome guy on the planet or something like that. So at that time, it got me thinking, okay, I need a thing for myself, not just because I could do it, but because I wanted to, brand myself as something. And I kept thinking, what am I really about? At my core, I'm actually a geek. Some would say nerd, but I would prefer the word geek because geeks are, by definition, way cooler than nerds. so I wanted to have a geek in my resume, and I said, okay, just geek is not good enough, so let me be the coolest geek, because not all geeks are cool, not all nerds are cool. So I just made up a word and said, let me get the domain and point it to my website, and that's how it came about.
It's a great marketing strategy, and of course could possibly argue that geeks have taken over the world.
Exactly. Geeks and freaks, right? Like in that show.
30 Rock? No, not 30 Rock.
No, what was that?
It's on the tip of my tongue as well.
I can't remember.
Tell me the story about how you got started in digital marketing.
Back in 97, 98, while I was still living in India, I had this internet cafe. That was a business I started a couple of years out of college. And so I wanted to get into some kind of an online business. And because I had an internet cafe, I had quite a bit of time on my hands because I was at the cafe all the time and I was messing around with stuff and looking for Indian baby names. And that's when I found out that there were not many websites at that time. There were all different kinds of baby name sites, but there was no Indian baby name site. So I said, let me start my own site. And back then, this was probably, the actual site started probably in 97 or so. I didn't even have a domain name at that point. Back then, Yahoo had a property called... I can't even remember the name. It was one of these free hosting sites, GeoCities and Tripod, if you remember.
Yeah.
So I think Yahoo bought GeoCities later. So I started a site on one of them and started having Indian baby names. And then I realized I could sell. People were looking online for books about Indian baby names. So I went out and bought these books from this author who had written a book. And from the bookstore, I made a deal with the bookstore that I'll sell so many copies. I bought them a little bit cheaper, wholesale rates, and I started selling them online. So I was the first person from India to sell a physical product all over the world.
That's a pretty good achievement, Ravi. It's and that of course led you to the United States, where you now live.
Correct. So a few years later, I figured out that India was going to be a problem for my ambitions, because e-commerce was still, hard in the US. US was still the heart of e-commerce and opportunity. And I could not it was so hard staying in India to even get a payment processor to accept me or my business, because, even PayPal to this day does not operate in some countries. So you can imagine, like 20 years ago, most payment processor, there wasn't PayPal. I don't think so. There were a few payment processors, and they didn't want to deal with international merchants. So it was very hard. And I figured that I had to go where all the action was. And that's how I figured out a way to get a job. And I came here during the Y2K boom and the dot-com boom. They were hiring a lot of people with tech skills. So I was able to come over here to the US. And now I lived in New York for about 10 years. Then I moved to San Diego. That's where I live right now.
Well, I often think about the Y2K kerfuffle, because in one of my previous careers, I managed an internet service provider in Australia, and of course, we had to have all the systems upgraded for Y2K, and there was a lot of people saying to be doom and gloom scenarios.
Yeah, there's always something, right?
And of course, nothing happened. And I've often wondered, did nothing happen because the doom and gloom scenarios were correct and all the patching stopped them happening, or was it just overstated?
Yeah, doom and gloom was mostly for heavily automated mission critical systems, right? For the most part, they were all fixed. It was the date format, and for the most part, it was all fixed. And that definitely helped. It definitely needed to be fixed, because there was an inherent issue with the system, and having a two-digit date format would have caused a lot of systems, a lot of problems, including banking, railways, aviation, and so on. So they did fix it in time. Fortunately or unfortunately, I was able to take advantage of that wave of hiring. I did not come here, specifically for the Y2K stuff. So I came for the .com stuff. My first job was at a internet startup, which was trying to become the next Monster.com at the time. If you heard Monster.com.
I remember them, yes.
Yeah, Dice and Monster. So those were the big sites. Can't believe, 15 years ago, Monster and Dice were taking out, at least Monster was taking out Super Bowl ads at that point. So at that time, anything went. If you could drum up some hype, you could get money. If you just get a few eyeballs, you could just extrapolate that into millions of eyeballs down the road, and you could sell your startup for a lot of money. It was all the wild west back then. So that's how I was able to get in.
It certainly was the .com bubble version 1. Now, what we talk about in this podcast generally is writing in the most case, but how to become an authorpreneur. And the word authorpreneur, it means an independent writer that uses some marketing savvy to and marketing tools and tactics to actually build a platform and sell their own book, which is what you do yourself, but you're not just limited to writing. I like to reading your bio and everything. You strike me as a real creative entrepreneur. What are the things that drive you to be a creative entrepreneur? Is that a correct way to?
Yes, you could say that. My biggest boon and my bane has been that I'm always trying to solve problems. I'm a problem solver at the very core. And not any problem, I don't like to solve electronic problems. If something breaks in my house, I just throw it out and buy a new one. I can't fix anything at all right around the house. I'm the most useless husband when it comes to fixing things around the house. But when it comes to online stuff, something goes off in me, and I want to probe, and I want to find out what makes something work. And that has been like I said, an advantage and a disadvantage. Whenever I see something that there's a need, or if there's a tool that comes out or an online service, and if it is in my area, that's the key thing. I don't go out and try to be the next Uber or the next Google. If there's something in my niche which applies to my scale of thinking and my vision, then instead of using a tool to help my business, I'm thinking, how can I create something better and offer it to my customers? And I'm always constantly trying to keep my niche down to something, very focused, so that I'm not trying to create totally different tools. So the advantage is, over time, I build customers in the same niche. And so in 2001, I started a webmaster script website called Webmaster in a Box. It's no longer active, but I was selling PHP scripts. So at the time, for site owners. So my evolution has been, because every time I tried something, I was part of the audience.
Yeah.
I felt the need myself, and it was always scratching my own itch. But most people who go from a hobby to a business forget that it's not enough to scratch your own itch, but you also have to make sure there's enough people who want to do the same.
That's precisely right.
That's where I was able to set myself apart, in that I was always at the cutting edge of stuff going on in the online small business e-commerce world, where bloggers and with the advent of WordPress, that niche just grew like to millions of people, and that really helped me out down the road.
When do you think you first realized that you'd really figured out this digital marketing thing, and it was going to be a viable way to make income and create a lifestyle?
Right. So the first time was soon after I had moved to New York. I got an email from somebody who said, "Hey, I went to your website, the baby name site, and I see that you have a contact us form on your site. Do you mind selling that to me?" So you can imagine how technology was primitive back then.
Yeah.
That if you needed a contact us form, you had to actually get it custom developed by a developer.
Yeah.
Because websites, if you had Dreamweaver and all these HTML tools, all they could do was static HTML. If you want anything that involved any kind of programming, even something as simple as emailing the contents of a form to you had to have it developed. So that was the first time I had written this thing while learning PHP and just experimenting with stuff. And somebody came and said, "Would you like to sell it to me?" So I said, okay. So I said, how can I package it in a way that he can just change a few things and then use it on his own site? So as soon as I did that, it's a very simple experience. So I packaged it into a zip file, sent him the zip file, and I got paid $30. And that was the biggest light bulb moment for me. And that's it. Wow. So I can do this. All I did was send him a link to, I sent it as an attachment at that point.
Yeah.
Sent him a zip file, and I got $30.
Yeah. It's a great feeling when you make that first online sale of a product you've developed, or even a book you've written.
Right. Until then, I had been only selling physical books. So a sale was always a little bit, unfortunately at that point, a little annoying to me, because by the time I had already moved from India to New York, I had a full-time job. And if I got a sale for my actual physical book, I said, you know what, I can't do this. I brought a shipment of books with me here to the US. Then I had to go to the post office and I had to mail it out. And soon I was getting 5-10 orders a week. And it was really eating into my weekends. And plus, the people were getting annoyed that if somebody ordered on Monday, the earliest I could mail it out to them was for following Saturday. And because the costs were so prohibitive of shipping them from India to here and then from here to them, the shipping costs were very high. So the cost of the book was high, and so the whole thing was a mess. So I had to send it by regular mail, which means And then the first time I sold a digital product that was the most amazing sensation, because I didn't have to go to the post office. I didn't have to physically do anything. It was just send an email, get money. That was the turning point, I guess, in my career.
Yeah, it's a magic formula, isn't it? I can remember.
Yeah, it's so addicting.
My first email campaign, and then I woke up in the morning to a couple of sales, and I was like, "My God, this actually works!" It's
exactly. There's nothing that gives you a bigger high than waking up richer than you went to bed last night.
But particularly when you slave over a product.
Exactly. And even if at the beginning, if it's just a couple of dollars, it's still a big deal, your first sale.
And I think that's the message I try to get out to everyone on my podcasts. You just got to, in Australia, we have a saying, you've got to have a go. Just have a go. Don't try to get it all perfect and make everything absolutely perfect. Just put it together and have a go. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, you learn from it. You expand. But a lot of people who'd like to get into the online space, and this is probably true in the United States, United Kingdom, etc. Some people are risk adverse. They're afraid of putting themselves out there and having a go.
Right, and the software people are blessed to have the word beta or beta, or depending on how you call it, right? So you can just slap the label beta on it, and you can launch something that's not fully done. And that's the beauty of beta and minimum viable product. It can be applied to anything at all, even if it's a book, even your Kindle book. You don't have to have the perfect first version out there. You can actually add stuff, add chapters. That's the beauty of Kindle or digital books, is that you can add stuff even after it's released.
That's quite right. I mean, and I'm an ebook evangelist myself, and it's a living document. It can be updated, amended. So we'll change the tack a bit back onto writing. So you've written a couple of books now. What's the one bit of advice you'd give a first-time author putting a book together in the non-fiction space? Maybe they want to do what you're doing yourself, is using your books to support your online business, which is advice I always give. What would be your advice for somebody like that to complete a book and get it published?
Right. So there's two aspects. One is, what should you write about? If you already have an offline online business, then how do you position your book? So that's key. The key thing is to figure out first, before you write a single word, what is the purpose of this book? Is it just to get my name out there? Because there will be a different angle depending on what you're trying to do. Let's say if it is about promoting your main flagship product, it doesn't matter whether it's sold offline or online, whether you're building a brand. The goal is to position the content of the book so that it appeals to the audience that you're trying to reach. So in my case, my first book, of course, was called No Business Like E-Business. It had everything. It was all about positioning myself as an expert. Because at that point, I had a full-time job. I had this business going on the side. I was working nights and weekends. And my biggest motivation at that point was to become known as an expert in the digital marketing space. So that was my goal back then, and it still is in so many ways right now. But it also, evangelizes my product that my wife and I co-founded and co-developed, called Digital Access Pass.
Yeah.
So the book is about. It doesn't really, that's where you have to have draw a fine line and say, you can't make the book an advertisement for your product, but at the same you want to tie it in enough and still demonstrate without explicitly beating your chest about it and shouting through the rooftops that your product is your product, or you in your space, you're the best possible solution available for the problem that you're trying to solve. So this book was the new book that I've written is called Subscribe Me, and it is about online course, how to create online course membership sites, recurring subscriptions, and selling online, and so on.
Yeah, I've had a bit of a free read on Amazon, and I love your theory of dog poo versus dosa. Could you give the listeners a run through on that?
Sure. So to demonstrate the difference between one-time products and recurring products, I created two acronyms, and I wanted to create it in such a way that it sticks out in people's minds, and the acronyms make sense to what they're trying to explain. So dog poo, which is general, is stinky, is disgusting. So it's DOGPOO. It stands for do once, get paid only once. That is your typical freelancer model, right? You do work, you get paid. You go to work, you get paid. You work for a client, you do a project, you get paid. When you stop working, you no longer get paid. So that's your one-time model. Do once, get paid only once. So versus dosa, which again, I tied it to the famous Indian dish called dosa. It's this delicacy. And so dosa is yummy. That's what you want. You want to go for dosa. Stands for DOSAA. Do once, sell again and again. And that is the real key to having a long-term business, because it's if you ask any freelancer, and actually freelancers have it worse than somebody who has a job, because somebody who has a regular job actually goes and gets a paycheck every month. And freelancers have it even worse because they don't have a job every month. When the current project ends, they have to have another project lined up. And the same thing goes with selling one-time products. You have to constantly be hunting for new customers, and it gets really exhausting after a while. It's fun in the beginning. You sell something, you get paid $30. Wow, that's amazing. Then you go find another customer, and pretty soon you find that you can't be hunting for customers all the time. There has to be some way for customers to come back and buy more stuff. Then you say, okay, that's not a big deal. Let me go and create more products. Now, it is humanly impossible to endlessly keep creating new products unless you're a marketplace like Amazon, who, if you notice, they don't sell their own products. They sell other people's products. So unless you have a marketplace, it is not possible for you to keep coming out with new products. So whether it's your groceries, whether it's gas, you think of anything that you buy today, any big company you buy from today, even if you're buying it one time, there is a built-in recurring model into it, in that you will soon go back for more, whether it's groceries or gas or go to the restaurant. And if you don't have some kind of recurring model built in, those are the companies that fail. And that's why 80% of small businesses fail.
So Subscribe Me walks the reader through how to set up a subscription model membership site. Would that be correct?
Right. So it talks everything about, why do you need recurring, and how do you add recurring to your existing model, and how to. So it starts with, goes through the whole process of what are the tools you need today. Okay, and it talks about different things you can do, whether you want to have your own website, you want to sell on a third-party site like udemy.com, or do you want a hosted service, or your own WordPress. So it goes through all the different tools and technology that you need, and what are the payment processors. Do you want PayPal? You want credit card? So it goes through all the technology side, and then it also goes to the next level, which is, okay, now you want to charge every month. How do you decide how much to charge? And then based on how much you charge, how do you provide the value for that? How much content do you need to package? What kind of stuff do you need to package? for if you want to sell something for, say, $9.99 a month, versus what do you do if you want to sell a $99 program versus a $1,000 program? So different tiers. How do you ascend the customer? I call it commitment ascension model. So you start from the smallest commitment to the biggest commitment. Smallest commitment is something like giving you their email address. The biggest commitment would be coming to your, real life events and hiring you for thousands of dollars and getting one-on-one coaching. Maybe they come to your house. So those kind of coaching and consulting all the way. So how do you package different things? So it goes through the whole gamut of choices you have to make and the choices that are available for you. So it educates you on from end to end on adding recurring subscriptions and doing it all online via online courses and membership sites.
I'm a big believer that this model can work with writers as well. I'm also a big believer that most people have something they can teach, and putting together a subscription site where you're maybe linking some courses on how to write a book, how to put it all together, how to market it, how to create a platform, that gives a valid subscription income model to people writing a book, trying to get it out on Amazon. That, and at the end of the day, it's rare to make a lot of money off Amazon books sales. You've got to find other models, and a subscription site monetizing your knowledge, to me, seems the best model. Would you agree with that? Absolutely.
Amazon books have never been known to make anybody a millionaire unless you're in the top 1%, like Stephen King or Harry Potter books. Unless you have a huge brand and a huge platform, you're not going to make and you get a publisher who gives you a huge advance. The average person is not going to make a lot of money on Amazon. So the next question is, what is the purpose of your book? Because it's not. You cannot say, I'm going to write a book and get rich. That's not going to happen unless you write a lot of books. That's another story.
Yeah.
But the main thing is, how do you leverage this huge, massive monster called Amazon, be able to reach a lot of people, and you will make some money along the way. If you sell thousands of copies at $2.99 or $4.99, you will make you can make up to 70% of the sale. So it's not that you're going to be broke, but you will make money. But that shouldn't be the goal. The goal is to leverage that audience and bring them back to your website.
Yeah.
By offering stuff, free bonuses, free lifetime copy, and you can bring the buyers back to your site, add them to your list. Then now you have a audience that you can go back to repeatedly and offer value, like Gary Vaynerchuk calls it, jab, 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 right hook. So you send them a few jabs, and then you do a right hook. So you add a lot of value, and you promote something. Obviously, you want to promote something that they would be interested in, because that's the reason why they look for your book. They bought it. They have emailed you the receipt. They have joined your list. They're following you. They're listening to your podcast. They're following you on Instagram or Facebook. So now you put them in a Facebook group. So now you're building a community of very focused, in a very focused niche, and you're trying to solve a problem. And these people are there, and they've expressed that they have a problem, and they express that they are following you. So now what do you do with that? That's the next step, right?
And that's really about building a platform, isn't it? Now, you're the go-to guy for digital marketing advice. What advice would you give to somebody in the writing space who's heard about the importance of this platform thing, but they don't have a clue how to go about building one, how to get it together?
Yeah, so the platform itself, the word it's a little bit overrated, right? It's not the platform that matters. It's where your audience is hanging out that matters. A lot of people get, there's always a new thing being promoted. Oh, Instagram, Snapchat, this, that, Pinterest. Blab, Periscope, there's always something coming out.
Yeah,
And there's
wears
always
me out trying to keep up with it.
you cannot keep up with it, because there's always going to be a bunch of superstars in every platform.
There'll always be the big new shiny thing.
Exactly. And you just can't keep getting distracted, because the moment podcasting has always been so big, but now suddenly Periscope came, and Blab and Meerkat. Now that's the next video point and click video revolution going on. And there's always going to be somebody who's really killing it with the new platform, and you're always jumping ship. There's always going to be a new thing that comes out, whether it's a platform or a different strategy or a different type of marketing. But though you always have to be old school. You have to remember that ultimately what matters is, can you consistently own the audience? As in, do you have a place where you can reach them consistently? And if it's just Periscope or some third-party platform, there's only so far you can go. If they change the rules, or they get the platform gets bought out, and Twitter has been known for doing this, they can change the rules. Facebook is the same way. People spent millions of dollars collectively gaming for likes back in the day, because they thought getting a like from somebody meant when they updated their fan page, everybody would hear that, would see the message. Soon Facebook said less than 10% or so will see of your fans will see your message, even if they've liked it and liked your page. So they changed the rules. So you cannot depend on a third-party platform to exist and support your business for the long term. You have got to bring them back to your website. And that's the key in the platform, is that doesn't matter where they originate from, whether it's Facebook, and you have to go where your audience is. If your audience is on Pinterest, then don't worry about I hate Pinterest, right? I can't figure it out. I'd rather do the marketing on Facebook. It's because I have figured it out, and I'm a lot more comfortable with it. Well, your audience is not on Facebook. They're on Pinterest. So don't fall in love with the platform. Don't fall in love with the technology. Go where your audience is. But even if it's the old school internet forums, right? Not many people know the word forums anymore, because there are no forums. Everybody's on Facebook groups these days. Yeah. So whether it's creating a Facebook group or going to an existing online forum, and or Twitter, which is becoming less and less used, but still has a lot of impact, because the noise has died down on Twitter, because people are moving on to the new shiny thing. So that means people who are still on Twitter, you can reach some of the big names so easily by tweeting at them. Of course, you can't spam them, but it's easier to build relationship on some of these other platforms, and that's the key. And then eventually you have to figure out a way to bring them all to your website, and you have to build a list. That is the single most important thing, is building your email list. If you don't have an email list, you really don't have a long-term platform.
The list is where the money is, as it's said over and over again.
Absolutely. There's, obviously it's not just email, having an email ID on your list. There's a lot more. There's building relationship, providing value, establishing authority. There's so many aspects to it, but bottom line is you have to have a list.
So what would you say is the most important message you want readers to take away from your book, Subscribe Me?
For most people, it is easier to sell something digital than physical. Okay, so the books lays out all the options they have if they want to start selling online. And the biggest message is dog poo versus dosa. You cannot build a successful long-term business if you're selling one-time products. That's the biggest message I have, that you must incorporate a recurring subscription model. And I also show how to change the thinking from just selling one-time products to, because it is a shift in mindset in terms of your marketing, your positioning, and the pricing. because now you have to convince people not just to pay you $2.99 for your ebook. Now it is about how to increase the value that you're offering so that they'll pay you $10 a month or $100 or $1,000. So this whole different mind shift change. And that's the mind shift change that I'm trying to educate people on and give them the tools and the technology and answers to the choices that they will have to make, and educate them about those choices and how to make an informed decision.
It's a great book, and I highly recommend it. You can find more about Subscribe Me. Where can we find your book, Ravi? You've got the URL. Well, we'll of course have this added in the show notes at the end of the program. But
sure. You can go to subscribemebook.com. One word, subscribemebook.com.
That's easy to remember. And if any writer thinking of just going beyond just pushing a book out there, this is a fantastic read, and it will set it all out for you. Now, you're also a successful podcaster. I'm interested in how that came about.
Yeah, so I have always been interested in the talk show format, talk show radio, right from the time I was a youngster. Growing up in India, we used to get only a couple of channels. So CNN used to come on. I used to watch Larry King. So there was something fascinating always about the talk show format, where you have either one person talking, or if it's an interview, two people exchanging thoughts and ideas. So I always was more drawn to talk than to music, even though, I have a lot of music in my genes, my entire family, a lot of musicians. So later on, when I used to reach the U.S., I used to listen to talk show radio, and again, that just kept building on my fascination for the platform. And then I discovered podcasting once I got my first. I believe it was the iPhone Touch, not the iPhone Touch, the iPod Touch, and iTunes made it so easy to subscribe to podcasts. Back then, I had to download everything on my computer and then upload it, sync it to my iPod Touch. But it was so helpful during, when I was traveling or commuting. It was fascinating. A lot of the times I didn't have internet access, so sometimes I would just, or my laptop would die, and I would just fire this up in the subway, even when there is no phone or any kind of connection, so I could still listen to stuff. And I preferred to listening to podcasts. And that fascination grew over time. And then a lot of shows started coming out about entrepreneurship and how to, and just stuff that about building your business. And I was listening to those and said, I can do this, and I have so much to offer. And this was probably the best platform. I'm a good writer too, so I could probably bang out a blog post. But there's something very intimate and very personalized about a podcast. That listening to somebody, having their voice in your head, it can be good or bad. Good for the most part, right? You can come to hate them because if you don't like the way they sound or what they're saying, much more than they'll be much more passionate about the podcast than about a blog post, because the blog post is just one click away to get out.
Yeah.
With the podcast, they tend to listen. You can engage more with the audience only because they're usually it's not something, unless they get a phone call, they're not going to really interrupt the podcast. They're usually doing the dishes or walking the dog or going for a run. And even if you have a 30-second ad in your thing, people are not stopping their activity just so they can fast forward through 30 seconds of ads. So that was fascinating. Not that I have any ads in my thing, but I'm just saying. So the fact that people are stuck with you one way or the other, for good or for bad. Now you can take advantage of that, and obviously if you provide a lot of value, if your show is full of ads, people are not going to come back. But the fact that it's not easy to click away, it's not easy to change the channel, so to speak, that means that now you have a more attentive audience, and you can really use that if you provide great value. And people will even put up with, like some of the shows I listen to, those 2 minute ads, 2 minutes of ads in the beginning, 2 minutes of ads in the middle, it's just extremely exhausting as a listener. But some of them I really put up with because the content is so great. That's what people will do on a podcast. And
Yeah, you're quite right.
and you can use that to your advantage. You don't have to have ads at all, like except a couple of my episodes in the beginning. I wanted to do it just because I could. I had a couple of episodes with ads. Otherwise, it's mostly about educating people. I have absolutely no ads. And on most of the later episodes, it's all about promoting myself as an expert by providing tremendous amount of value, answering listener questions, going deep diving into a lot of the topics that we have just been talking about. It's basically expanding the book. And I realized that podcast is a fantastic medium for having an intimate relationship with your audience. And you're in their head, you're talking, you can be funny, you can be more down to earth, you can be you can be more authentic, you can be yourself, and that really resonates with your audience, and you can build a relationship.
You've hit the nail on the head. I love podcasting because basically I'm a lazy man, and
Exactly.
I find that blogging is exhausting. Like, you got to research the topic, bank some topics up, and then write the blog post. A podcast, you have a conversation. It's much easier, and I think, as you said, listeners have to commit. I mean, they don't have to commit; they can turn you off. But it's a different level of commitment from reading a blog post to listening to a podcast. You can, be on your. I listen to podcasts riding, walking.
Right. That's why radio becomes so big, because the listener is kind of stuck with you in the car, right?
Yeah.
It's not. They can't easily.
There's no escape.
Check Facebook. They can't easily click away and check whether somebody messaged them on Facebook. They can't check their phone for Instagram message, or they can't watch a YouTube video, right? There's just very few distractions. Same thing with the podcast. That's what is more fascinating. And because I already love the talk show format, I even don't have too many guests because I still I'm going through the initial phase. I'm 20 episodes in,
Yep.
and I'm still going through the phase where I still have so much left to offer. So most of my shows, almost 99%, except I think I had one guest so far. Most of my shows are solo shows where I just go pick up a topic, go and deep dive on the topic, and sometimes it lasts multiple episodes.
Yeah, I've had a listen to your show. It's a great show, highly recommended. Again, if people want to listen to Ravi's podcast, it's on subscribeme.fm. You can find the podcast right there. And I think you're also on Stitcher as well, aren't you?
Yes. So if you go to subscribeme.fm, all of the links are there. And if you click on the podcast link in the menu, you can listen to the show on the website too, just if you want to sample what the show sounds like. And then you can subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher.
Well, it's been great having you on the podcast, Ravi, and I've learned a lot. I hope my listener, I hope I have more than one listener. I do have a couple. I'd like to wrap up and ask you, what's your philosophy of success?
In general, this philosophy of success and legacy and all this stuff has changed for me over time as I've grown older. I've lost my parents. So ultimately, the biggest thing is, if you can do whatever it is that you want to do and have fun and help somebody and make money while doing all that, that's the biggest definition of success. So because usually when you're going for a job, right, it's you make money, but you may not really be having all that fun because you have to be there at somebody else's bidding, and you have to do what is being asked of you. On the other hand, if you're just a freelancer, you own your own time, but money is not consistent. You're having fun, but it's not consistent. And if you're fully into social, in a social organization, you're probably getting a lot of satisfaction, but you're not making so much money. So what is the one thing where you can do all of the above? If you can find that intersection of where you're having a lot of fun, you're getting a lot of satisfaction because you're helping a lot of people, and you're making a lot of money. Again, you don't have to make billions, right, to be happy. Whatever it is that you need to take care of everything that you need to take care of, and own your own time and be your own master. That to me is the definition of success. And if I go strictly by that, I have been extremely successful in what I set out to achieve as a youngster, and everything else from here onwards is just gravy. Icing on the top.
I think that's a great philosophy. Just have fun. Well, it's certainly been a lot of fun talking to you, Ravi, and thank you for coming on the podcast. If you want to buy Ravi's book, it's Subscribe Me, and you can get it at subscribemebook.com, and listen to the podcast, subscribeme.fm. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's been an amazing experience. I appreciate having me on the show.
Thank you. This is the ebook revolution again, episode number 14. We're getting up there bit by bit. My New Year's resolution is to get more of these out each week. But episode 14, of course, you can get the show notes and the direct links to all Ravi's sites and platform at madhousemedia.com.au/podcast. Just look for episode 15 of the ebook revolution. And of course, while you're at it, if you could pop on over to iTunes and give us a rate and review, that would be fantastic, because the more reviews we get, the more people know about the podcast and we get the message out. And we're also available on Stitcher. That's it for us. Goodbye from the ebook revolution. See you next time.